Entering the atmosphere in T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Doominal Crossing. Doom, how are you today, my friend? How's it going? Is it snowing in your neck of the woods? Probably not. I don't even know if you get snow, but it's snowing up here.
Yeah, we're definitely not snowing right now. It does snow on a very rare occasion here in California, but at least obviously it's some places in California. Where I live in California, in the Sacramento area, it is very uncommon, to put it mildly. I think the last time that I saw snowfall in this area was when I was in high school, which was literally half a lifetime ago for me, which is wild to think about. Not how I expected to start this episode off. But you know what else was half a lifetime ago was Metroid Prime 3, and boy howdy do we have a Metroid Prime 4 coming up. When we're recording, it's 9 days away. By the time you guys are going to be listening, it is going to be 8 days away. We are 1 week away from Metroid Prime 4. This is insane, dude.
I got to tell you something, actually. Two things. So yesterday, Doom and I were chatting before we started recording, and I was telling him that it blizzarded in southern Alberta, and we were going to take my dog, Lincoln, to get his 8-week post-surgery checkup, and we had to delay because there was this big blizzard, and like we're trying to rebook it, and I'm like, I don't know, like next Wednesday, next Thursday, like maybe next Friday, like just trying to book one of these days. And so like next Thursday is looking like kind of a good day, and I'm like, okay, yeah, let's lock it in. And I look at the calendar and I'm like, holy crap, next Thursday is not going to work. It's the 4th of December next week. Like I was like floored when I saw the day that was rapidly approaching. So yeah, it feels like actually like unbelievable, like in a way. Like I know that everybody was really like looking and really hot about getting the Metroid Prime 4 release date, and it didn't come for a little bit, but it came, it got announced, and like we are almost here, and I feel like it snuck up very quickly, probably helped by the fact that there were so many games in the last couple of months here. But I mean, yeah, we're within like touching distance of this thing.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild, and obviously as we later get into today, we're going to be kind of talking about the journey, about how we got here today, and you know what's just around the corner. And yeah, these are exciting and unprecedented times. It is very exciting to be a Metroid fan right now. Like I just want to say, on behalf of everyone at Omega Metroid, I'm so proud of what we did in our contributions to get here, and I'm very excited to see what the future brings us. This is absolutely incredible.
It's been quite the journey, and as Doom kind of alluded to here, we're going to reflect and we're going to celebrate on that journey, and we are going to put together a timeline of the Metroid Prime 4 saga, which kind of like correlates, and I'm going to throw in some dates as well, of the timeline of the Omega Metroid podcast / OmegaMetroid.com, because like this podcast was largely built around Metroid Prime 4. The idea certainly started kind of like getting serious in and around there. So it's a wild thing to know that like when we started this podcast, like this game was almost like mythical, like it was almost untouchable, and yet here we are, like we are almost up to the point now where you could play Metroid Prime 4, which seems just like absolutely unreal. So we're going to go over, and we are going to go through that timeline. We got a couple other things that we're going to touch on as well, just kind of like our release schedule. But first, before we do any of that, we are going to ask you, the listener, to submit some questions for next week. We have one final Q&A episode coming next week. We want your questions. How do you feel going into Metroid Prime 4. Maybe not even a question. You can send us just like your Metroid journey, like your kind of like where you were 8 years ago when this game was announced up till present day, and what this release kind of means to you. If you have any final hopes, if you have any concerns. Last week our show absolutely blew up. The most comments I've ever seen, and I think we got to thank my boy Big Mac Miles McKenzie for that. He was he's a draw, as we say in the wrestling business.
He's the talk of the town for sure.
Yeah, and maybe for good reason, or maybe for bad reason, depending on your point of view. But yeah, so if you have a question or thought about Miles McKenzie, let us know as well. We can answer that. Companions in general, we can answer that. We're going to do one last easy breezy, beautiful Metroid Prime 4 episode, and then the next week after that is going to be the game. And by the way, I want to take a second here and go over our release schedule for what we're going to be doing with Metroid Prime 4. So as fate would have it, the next week's episode is going to come out on Wednesday, December the 3rd. And I know that everybody's going to be busy on the 4th. Probably no one's going to be checking out the Omega Metroid podcast on that day. But I do think, man, it feels like a long time to wait from the 3rd of December all the way to the 10th of December when this game has been out for a long time. So we are pulling an audible. We are going to be recording a bonus episode that is going to drop either on the Saturday or the Sunday, one of those 2 days on the weekend, depending on where we are. We're not going to cover much. We're basically going to cover the exact same areas that IGN and GameSpot and all those kind of outlets got to cover when they did the previews. So I think we'll end the show kind of like when we get to I would imagine probably basically when you get up to Viola. We'll see what that looks like. But we are going to be dropping a show on the weekend with our first impressions, and we'll be back as scheduled on the 10th as well. So we're going all out. We're going all out for you guys there. We know that you want some thoughts on Metroid Prime 4, and we want to deliver on that for you guys. So very, very exciting times, I feel like, coming in the world of the Omega Metroid podcast.
Depending on where you live, you actually also might get a chance to play Metroid Prime 4 right now. Select GameStops, Walmarts, Targets, and Best Buy have gotten the same Metroid Prime 4 demo that's been at a lot of the Switch 2 preview events that our boy Dak got to play in New York a few months ago. So yeah, go check out your local retailers, see if they have one lying around. I checked all my nearby stores, and unfortunately, I was only able to find trailers, not the demo, so I do not have any info to give you. Aside from that, though, I did also want to shout out. I just got this brand new product today from Hobby Insights. It's a giant Metroid 2 Game Boy cartridge. I ordered this from him at a convention back in September. But yeah, it finally came in today, and it looks absolutely wonderful. I actually linked his Instagram in our Discord for anyone else that's interested. It's not just Metroid 2 or even Game Boy. He does a bunch of like different life-size carts. There's a little divot on the back so you can hang it on your wall too. But yeah, it looks really awesome in person. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to some local creators if you looking to get some more Metroid merch in your collection.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to actually give a little bit of a shout out myself to the Omega Metroid writing team. They have been pumping out news articles, coverage, really just like kind of keeping on top of everything that has been coming out. There's a lot of information, a lot of new stuff to kind of keep on top of in terms of reporting. So I wanted to shout them out. I think that they've been doing a really great job. So a lot of our staff writers have just like really upped their game. I have a proud moment to shout out here, Doom. The first article from my wife just went live on OmegaMetroid.com today. That she and I kind of wrote it together, and I was like, okay, now submit it to Rod and get some final approval. Rod's like, yeah, Andy didn't do this right. So there was some editing to do, but by God, we got it, and and that article is live. So I was proud, but I'm proud of like the entire writing team. I think they've really stepped up in a big way. So yeah,
we talked about it. We talked about it in the behind the scenes channel, but I have to shout out again. Sam's reaction to Miles McKenzie might have been the most perfect reaction, easily the best reaction I've ever seen of all the stuff going around the internet for sure.
What did she? Oh, she said that it looked like Austin,
Austin
Powers in a
reference,
spaceship.
yeah.
That might be
I was
what.
like,
I'm gonna say something controversial here. I promise we're gonna get back to Metroid, okay? But I did a rewatch of Austin Powers 1 and 2 like last year. I thought Austin Powers 1. When I was a kid, I always thought Austin Powers 2 was the funnier movie, and I watched Austin Powers 1, and I was like, this movie is so funny. And I watched Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, and I was like, this movie isn't really that great, actually. But the gag where they see the spaceship in the sky and they keep on cutting away to other people saying euphemisms for genitalia is just like so. That might be one of the great jokes of all time. Like, it's so good. So yes.
Especially in 3, rest in peace, Ozzy. Absolutely banger line at the for the version they did in that movie.
yeah. So yeah, our writing team has been doing a really good job, and that's a really nice segue into the next thing that I wanted to talk about here. Omega Metroid is looking for volunteers to join our writing team, specifically to help report news, to help build the Metroid Prime 4 guide. Doom and I are going to be tackling that, and it's going to be a work in progress. It'll probably take us a couple months. We obviously have full-time jobs and hobbies and life outside of Metroid, but we're going to be tackling that guide, and we really want to bring you a real big quality guide that's kind of fashioned in the same way as some of our other guides. They're for Metroid fans. They're written by Metroid fans from an independent, non-corporate conglomerate that you can check out. So we hope that you guys will be with us. But I mean, if you we would love to welcome more members into our community here, and I think that we have a really awesome community of Metroid fans, and there's something just like kind of cool about like working with other Metroid fans and like tackling a project of this magnitude. It's hard to describe, but it's really kind of a special experience, and I have really enjoyed the walkthroughs that we do. They're a lot of work, but I feel like they're all really worth it in the end. So if you are looking to kind of up your Metroid fandom, maybe you're interested in social media, maybe you're interested in editing, maybe you're interested in writing guides or reporting news or whatever it happens to be, there are lots of ways for you to get involved with Omega Metroid. There's a couple caveats. You have to be 18 and you have to have Discord. But I mean, that's kind of it. So, and obviously this is a volunteer position. So we all do this for the love of the game. So just go in knowing that as well. But there is there's a lot of like really cool perks, I feel like, plus you just getting to be a part of that community. I'll speak for me. Like, I feel like since we kind of formed Omega Metroid, like the Metroid community has really empowered me, and I it's just like a really special experience. So if anybody is looking to join that team, head over to OmegaMetroid.com. There's a volunteer section there. Click on it. You'll email me, Andy, at OmegaMetroid.com. Tell me why you want to join. Tell me what you want to do, and let's have a conversation. And I hope to see some of you listeners there. It'd be really cool to welcome in some of some new blood into the Omega Metroid team.
Yeah, I would say the vast majority of our staff is just, people who, we've run into on, Discord, or, most recently we picked some people up from the marathon. Obviously, I was an original listener
That's right.
of Omega Metroid before I came on. I was just, yapping away in the comments section, and now I'm yapping away here.
Well, there you go. So yes, lots of opportunity if you're looking to join the Omega Metroid family, and we'd love to welcome in new Metroid fans. So hopefully you consider applying. I think we're pretty reasonable. It's not like a huge workload. You kind of make it what you want it to be, but we could definitely use some hands if anybody feels like kind of jumping in and taking their love of Metroid to maybe not the next level, but like a different place. And there's really nothing quite like making a walkthrough. I don't think. Yeah,
it truly is. Like, it can definitely be an intense experience, but like it's also like a really fun experience just slowly watching it form, because you don't really I at least for me, I can't really speak for you, but at least for me, I don't really have like a full vision of like, oh, this is what the final one. It's just kind of something that just it kind of takes shape as you're writing it, as you're taking the pictures, and then once you get into the editing bay and you're really putting everything together, that's when the vision like really finally comes together. And then that's where you'll, at least for me, where you'll start to like, really start making some extra changes to kind of fit that vision as you're putting it together in real time. And that's always just like a really exciting process when you like really see that final picture.
That's so funny because I feel like I try and do like the skeleton of it and have it like a vision in my mind, and it always changes, of course. But generally, I'm like, okay, if I know my Metroid game, this is where I'm gonna break chapter 1 to chapter 2, chapter 3 to chapter 4, blah blah blah. So, yeah, lots of really cool stuff that you could help out with here. Okay, that being said, I guess that we should go ahead here and we should get started on the timeline of Metroid Prime 4, because this is something that begins a long, long, long time ago, which is why it feels so absolutely surreal that we are here today. You know, it's funny, actually. I was kind of talking on the ZeldaCast about this, and I was saying, like, the only thing I can compare it to is Breath of the Wild. And then I was like, man, Breath of the Wild was announced in 2014. Like, we didn't know it. It was Zelda Wii U at the time. It came out in early 2017. Like, that's 3 years, which is a long time for sure. Especially because, like, you're talking the Wii U era where there was nothing else to play. But, like,
3 years in the Wii U era is like 6 real years.
it's like cat or dog years, yeah. But you look at it, though, and you're just like, man, like, that, comparatively, that really doesn't feel like that long. Like, I can't remember a game, I mean, I guess, like, I can't remember a game that I'm that interested in taking so long to come out. I know that you could talk to, like, GTA fans or F-Zero fans, but to me, I'm just like, wow, this is like an 8-year odyssey that we've been on.
Mm-hmm. And even then, I think it's a little bit different because, like, it's been 8 years after the game. Like, if you want to go like full years, it's been like almost 2 decades since Metroid Prime 3, as I was alluding to earlier. But it's been 8 years since the game was officially announced, and there isn't too many games that at least too many games that like end up seeing the light of day that have an 8-year cycle from the time of announcement.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about it. Let's put this timeline together. I might even try and do this in written form, actually, because I think it's just kind of cool. But let's go back, all the way back to E3 2017, taking place June 13th, 14th, and 15th from the Los Angeles Convention Center. And if everyone kind of remembers, like, let's rewind a year to E3 2016. That was a pretty, in some ways it was a cool E3 because I think Nintendo really maximized like what they had, but they had nothing. They had Breath of the Wild and that was it. So their entire catalog was Breath of the Wild, and they built a really cool display, and that was E3 for Nintendo. So things were looking like really, really dire for Nintendo back then. Fast forward a year, and like the Switch is out, Breath of the Wild is out. The game has exceeded expectations, actually, like somehow. And Nintendo Switch is live and just, again, exceeding expectations. So Nintendo is in like a far, far, far better place. And I think that their E3 lineup is like really one of the stronger lineups that they have, like during the course of the Switch era. You get the announcement of you get new trailers for Super Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade Chronicles 2. This is where you see I want to say the first hint of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and so
there's no gameplay, but in that direct, one of the Pokemon guys, I can't remember who, it might have been Jinichi, but yeah, they did confirm that Pokemon was in development for the Switch, but that was about the extent of that announcement.
Now it wasn't all roses, because there was also a new Kirby game that was announced. And there was a new Yoshi game too, but I think what caught everybody's attention is midway through, Metroid Prime 4 is announced. We all remember the logo, the flaming, the blue flames around the 4. That was all that we had of that game at that time. And Reggie Fils-Aimé would do an interview a little bit later and say, like, listen, the game is nowhere near being ready to show, but we know that Metroid fans have really been yearning for a new addition to the Metroid Prime series. We're typically not in the business of showing off the title so early, but we wanted to assure them that this game is coming. I'm paraphrasing, but that was kind of the gist of what he said. So a very un-Nintendo-like move as they announce Metroid Prime 4 in E3 2017. And let's not forget, too, after that, there was a Treehouse presentation where Metroid Samus Returns was just announced during this Treehouse presentation. Not in the main direct, but in the post-show. So not the best way to announce a new Metroid game, but I think everybody was obviously talking about Metroid Prime 4 coming out of this announcement, and things are looking up. Things are looking up.
Yeah, and I think there's some important context as well. I mean, I'm sure our listeners are already aware, but like, you know, if we're talking about the early Metroid Prime 4 announcement, we do also have to talk about Metroid Prime Federation Force, because at this point, you know, obviously, let's go back to 2015, even before the game even came out. We got to go to the game's reveal. So it's 5 years after Metroid Other M. Metroid fans are, where's Metroid? Metroid Wii U, Metroid 3DS, we got nothing. What happened to the series? Metroid Prime Federation Force is announced. We all know what happened there. It wasn't what the Metroid community needed at that time. But there is some important information that Kensuke Tanabe gave in interviews after that E3, particularly that while at the time he couldn't say that there was a new mainline Metroid Prime game in development. One thing he did talk about was that he was really interested in expanding on the Galactic Federation, something that's also covered in the Metroid Prime Volume 1 through 3 retrospective. But and then he also, a big thing that he finally confirmed was that the ship at the end of Metroid Prime 3 was indeed Silex's ship. Which is something that fans had been theorizing about, but nothing was outright confirmed until he said so in that interview. And of course, following Federation Force, we did have a little sneak peek at Silex in the post-credits scene. And so while things were still very dour at the time, that was like our first sign that like maybe there's a chance. Maybe not, because the game absolutely bombed, but like it was the first sign of like a continuation of something. And so having that finally pay off at a time where I don't think anyone was expecting that so soon after, like it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I would probably argue, like, I've been a Nintendo fan all my life. I might say, like, for me, like 2015 was kind of up there with maybe the worst years to be a Nintendo fan ever. Like you had some moments of light. Like I think Super Mario Maker came out that year. Like the Silex reveal was cool, but like in 2015, the Wii U is like clearly, if not dead, like on life support. Zelda Wii U, as it's known, has been delayed indefinitely, which just feels like the biggest gut punch. And the Metroid series does not look like it's in any kind of healthy position, as it is still kind of recovering from the stench of 2010's Metroid Other M. So that was a really rough time for Nintendo fans.
Very few people are happy, or very few Wii U owners are happy in 2015. Obviously, you got actually not even.
Oh, you got Star Fox Zero in that year too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Because that got teased in 2014. Everyone was excited to see that, and then they showed it off, and it was just. Oh, okay.
It was no good, but you did get the cool
Star Fox 64.
Yeah,
the Muppets were awesome.
Yeah.
I do miss that about Nintendo, but we're not here to talk about E3. You can go to our E3 retrospective to hear about all that.
That's right. So excitement is at an all-time high here, and we're kind of thinking, like, Reggie has kind of set our expectations up. Like, this game isn't coming out in the next year, but I think it's, like, reasonable to think at this point, like, are we talking 2019? Are we talking, like, maybe 2020? And we don't hear about Metroid Prime 4 for a long time. I remember being, like, I was covering E3 for Zelda Dungeon at the time, and E3 2017, and I was thinking, like, you know, we probably don't see anything else for this game until next year's E3, like 2018. I was like, they'll announce it, and then they'll probably show, like, a teaser next year, and then maybe we'll start to really get some details and some firm ideas. That doesn't happen. So E3 2018 comes and goes. Multiple Nintendo Directs kind of come and go, and it's like, okay, that's like a little bit weird, but you know, we have Samus Returns that's out and kind of holding us over. So we know that Metroid Prime 4 is coming. So I think that fans are still pretty understanding of all that. And
we did also get Ridley in Smash, which, I mean, obviously it's not a Metroid game, but that was still I think a pretty big moment for us Metroid fans.
Oh, totally. I remember E3 2018, like, Ridley actually closed E3 2018. Like, he was the final reveal for Nintendo. I thought that was really cool, actually, and just like a really neat moment for Metroid. You're totally right. However,
yep.
Here we go. Let's fast forward to, let me get the exact date right here, the 25th of January, 2019. And this is where we get a video, and we have the senior managing executive officer for Nintendo, Shinya Takahashi, coming on, and he is very, you know that this is a bad news kind of thing. And I do not remember Nintendo ever doing this in my entire life. And he says, quote, "The current development progress for Metroid Prime 4 has not reached the standard we seek in a Metroid Prime series, and development is totally restarted from the ground up." Now, they tried to give us what we call, in the corporate world that I work in, a turd sandwich here. So you have two pieces of bread that are good news, but the meat inside is the turd. And so this game getting restarted was definitely the turd. But the good news is that Kensuke Kanabe is now working alongside Retro Studios to make Metroid Prime 4. So we didn't really get anything else beyond this announcement. Like, we got no announcements in terms of, like, timelines. We got no announcement in terms of, like, what that could actually mean for this game. But we did get, like, an executive just, like, really just kind of giving it to us straight, which I do appreciate. And I will say, I think that, like, a lot of fans at the time were fairly understanding of this announcement. And I think a lot of fans, while disappointed, certainly, I think that they generally were just like, take your time and do this properly, even knowing that this probably adds years to this game's release window.
Yeah, it's like this sucks, but also, like, hey, thanks for letting us know instead of leaving us in the dark. And and hey, thanks for bringing Retro Studios back, the people who should have been working on this from the beginning.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was definitely it was definitely like, I remember watching that video. It was such a roller coaster of emotions, because you're watching that and, like, it sounds like the game's about to be canceled, and I was like, I literally, like, my heart was, like, frozen, and I was just, like, anticipating the bad news. But it wasn't the worst case scenario. It wasn't great news, but, you know, it was like, okay, this sucks, but this is salvageable. Retro Studios is back. Okay, this isn't great, but there's still there we still have a chance here. Mm-hmm. The wait's gonna suck, but, you know, we're Metroid fans. We're used to waiting.
Yes, we are, and wait, we would, because there's a lot of empty space here in the timeline. But I do think, like, you know, say what you will about Nintendo, you can say a lot of things, but I think, like, there are not many publishers that would just, like, restart development like this for a series that, let's be honest, it doesn't do like big time numbers, like difference making numbers like this. You know what I mean? Like, and so
Right.
I do think that them like kind of like saying like no, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do it right is a really big like a really big indictment just of like they're a company, yes, but like I think that they do care about their games. Like I think if this would have been another developer or another publisher, it's like, okay, let's just let's either cancel this and cut off our losses, or like let's just use what we have and try and work it out, and like maybe it's not going to be the best game ever and we're just going to like take it on the chin, but we're not taking the financial hit of restarting this. And keep in mind too, like this is a Nintendo that 3 years ago, like you could make the case that like they might be out of business as a publisher soon because they're losing so much money in the Wii U era.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking a few months ago on a podcast with Joey, or I was at least, about, because we were lamenting kind of the state of the games industry with, all the layoffs, particularly with Microsoft most recently at the time. And, a game that both you and I were looking forward to, the Perfect Dark reboot, that got canceled under them. And, that's, I am consistently reminded of, situations like that looking at Metroid. Like, yeah, there's under another publisher, Metroid wouldn't stand a chance. Like, despite, the Nintendo audience, not being the most, adaptable to Metroid as opposed to like, a more FPS kind of laden audience like a Microsoft or a Sony. Nintendo almost feels like the perfect home for Metroid just because and again, we've been critical a lot on, Nintendo's handling of Metroid and, kind of like almost the circular, Ouroboros, if you will, on how they set the series up sometimes. At the end of the day, at least they do consistently keep giving it a chance more than I think any other publisher would. Or even like if, you look at Ubisoft, another franchise near and dear to my heart, Beyond Good and Evil, that sequel is still allegedly in development somehow, but like, I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to hear about it anytime soon. They're not going to provide us any updates like, hey, we had to scrap and rebuild it. And so so it was just really nice, despite our sunken hearts, it just was really nice just at least having that closure.
It was nice to have, transparency and like I remember covering the release up of Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And so that game was announced not that long after this, actually. It was announced E3 2019 in like one of the all-time great reveals at E3, I think. And like you just like didn't hear anything about this game for like forever. And I'm pretty sure that like COVID obviously impacted what was going on there, but like it wasn't until like I want to say like late 2021. I think the E3 that Metroid Dread was announced, actually, where you heard anything about this game. So it was like radio silence for almost 2 years, and like I remember that being really frustrating because I was like, if the game was delayed, just say so. There's no problem with that. But and I remember using this video kind of as reference and be like, they did it with Metroid. Like, let's have the same kind of transparency for Zelda. But it was definitely a gut blow for sure because you knew that it was going to add years of development. And I think for me, when they said that, I was like, oh my god, like that they were probably talking 2022, 2023, and I think a new Switch is going to be out by then. So like this is not coming out for Nintendo Switch, which was ultimately proven right but wrong. It's a dual release, and that's what I kind of thought it would be, but coming in even later than I thought it would, actually.
Yeah, I don't think many people were predicting 2025. I actually do remember. So Janet Garcia, she used to work for IGN. I think she sometimes collabs with Kind of Funny. I don't know if she works full time there, but I remember she was doing an episode with them one time, and she was thinking like, yeah, I don't think Prime 4 comes out till 2026. And at the time, I was like, that's insane. That's crazy. There's absolutely no way we're gonna wait that long. And technically, that's not true, but December 2025 is pretty close. It's certainly a lot closer than I think most of us were thinking back then. So shout out to Janet Garcia with the absolute foresight there.
Well, she had that timeline right. So let's diverge off of this timeline because we have an important date for our next timeline here, Doom. March the 3rd, 2020 is the first episode of the Omega Metroid podcast. And this is the launch of this podcast, which was largely built around Metroid Prime 4. So this is when we would first officially publish the podcast, but the wheels had been in motion for quite some time. Actually, I had met Dak through I think it was the Metroid database server, and I was like, originally my plan was, as everybody knows, I host the Zelda Cast, and I wanted to promote a Metroid podcast, kind of create like a network of Nintendo podcasts, and naturally Metroid was one of my favorite series, so I went looking for a Metroid podcast, and then discovered like, well, actually, there aren't any Metroid podcasts, so I was like, I should just make one. And so met Dak in a server. I literally just posted in the server. I was like, does anybody want to make a Metroid podcast with me? And Dak messaged me, and we kind of got together. We threw around some ideas. I had an idea for this show, and I was like, yep, we're going to do episodes every other week. They're going to be like 30 to 40-minute episodes. That's how we're going to maintain longevity for the show. And here we are.
Didn't happen.
Yeah,
with our
many
2-hour long episodes every week,
which somehow we do on a consistent basis. But that was the day that that was the day that everything kind of came together. And here's another date for you. March the 10th of 2020 is episode number 2 of the Omega Metroid podcast, entitled "Our Hopes and Wishes for Metroid Prime 4." So this show really was built around Metroid Prime 4 in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like, especially like as the pandemic, really started to come into effect, because March is about the time where, you started seeing like, the first lockdowns. Like, I think, it makes sense for a lot of people when they're going home. It's like, well, we want more, audio and, visual content. And like, it's the perfect time to like start a podcast. I know that like, cause I discovered the podcast, like pretty much during, I don't want to say during its inception, but like pretty close to like when it first started off. And I knew that like, I think a lot of us, when the pandemic hit, we were in a really rough spot for a lot of us, as the world was trying to figure out like, where do we go from here? What does the future look like going forward from here? And, I just know that at least for me, having that podcast that I could rely on every week, in a place where, we wasn't used to getting much Metroid content, made a huge difference.
Yeah, and the pandemic was such a strange thing, because like I mean, it's strange for everybody, obviously. Like I was off work for like 6 months, so I didn't really know. Like I was like, okay, well, I just because like I've been trying to like push Metroid onto all my Zelda fans or Zelda friends at Zelda Dungeon, and I consistently heard like I don't know where to go and I don't know what to do. So during the pandemic, I was like, Zelda Dungeon is built on walkthroughs and guides and stuff like that. And I was like, I'm not working right now. Like, I'm going to write a walkthrough for Super Metroid just to see if I can. So that was like a project that I gave myself during the pandemic, which is going to lead to another anniversary here pretty quickly. But there is another date that we should mention here, Doom, and that is March the 16th of 2021. Do you know what that date is?
I'm going to guess that is my debut episode on the Omega Metroid podcast.
You are 100% right. Episode 53, How Metroid Prime Trilogy Could Play and Control on the Switch. We had spoken a lot in Discord at this time, but this was the first appearance of Doominal Crossing, the mainstay on this show on the Omega Metroid podcast. So almost exactly 1 year after we had started, and things would never be the same after that. We quickly became a trio, and as Dak would kind of have more sporadic appearances, like you and I really have held down the podcast for the bulk of its run. Like there is far and away more shows with just you and I than any other combination on this show.
Yeah, which is really bizarre to think about, because I never like I always secretly in the back of my head was like, oh man, I would love to join these guys on the podcast, but I didn't want to be like, I didn't want to be that guy and be like, yo, can I be on your podcast? Can I be on your podcast? So I was just kind of like, it'll probably never happen. But then one day you just kind of asked me to be a guest, and I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna cherish this moment, be grateful for it, and I'll continue to support these guys. And yeah, now somehow I'm here on the front lines, which is Yeah, which is weird because it feels so normal now that now that I've been doing it for what, like 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but uh but yeah, it's been such a fantastic opportunity, and I will forever be grateful, not just for you guys letting me on the podcast, but just for the friendships as well, which genuinely means a lot to me.
I mean, that's kind of the name of the game, isn't it? Like you just strangers turn into amazing friends. Like you and I, like you're one of my closest friends, like kind of online, like Dak as well. Like meeting him and like I don't want to say what we did in New York, but it was because I don't know if it's illegal there or not. But just getting to hang out with him was really great.
It's not illegal in California, I'll tell you that.
That's right. And I'm pretty sure it's not illegal in New York either, by God. But let's just play it safe. But yeah, like that was like it's funny how that works, and like even on the Zelda Dungeon side, which is another great reason that you should join this team, because like one of my best friends in the whole world is Gooey Fame, and like we just met through Zelda Dungeon, just randomly. We happened upon each other, Allison, Aletha, Mossy's the owner of Zelda Dungeon. Like there's so many people. Adrielle, whose house I stayed at, by the way, in New York to go and see Dak. So just like a lot of like really core friendships that were formed through this podcast as well. So all right, let's take a look at our timeline here. And next up, we are going to go... Ooh, you know what? This just beats the next entry into the timeline. We're going to fast forward to the 17th of February, 2022. And this is the biggest Metroid Prime news that we've had in 3 years. Retro Studios updates their Twitter profile with a new banner, which clearly has Samus in it. It looks very blue. I actually don't know. I don't even know if this is like going to be part of the game or not. Like maybe it's Silex's visor. I'm not even sure, to be honest with you.
It kind of looks like Vault Forge, but it's really hard to tell because of just how murky
kind of.
Yeah. But I remember when this banner came out, and like the Metroid community lost their mind, and rightfully so. Like it was a morsel, but it was the first morsel we had gotten in so long. Before this, it was Shinya Takahashi, during Metroid Dread being like, hey, development's still going smoothly, game's still fine, here's Dread in the meantime, we'll update you on Prime 4 later when it's ready. Of course, we had the many different hiring stories that several outlets and us reported on at Omega Metroid. This was like the first, like, I don't know if it's like fair to call this a real piece of info. It's like a random piece of concept art used for a hiring ad, but like it was the realest piece of info. Yeah, it was something new that our eyes had not seen before, and my goodness, us and so many other creators put probably hours and hours and hours worth of content on this one image alone, which looking back on it is really funny, but like also just, man, what a time that was.
Yeah, just it does kind of feel funny to, like, in hindsight, just like think that you're going nuts over this piece of concept art, which like really doesn't look like it actually has anything to do with the final game. But like, man, at the time it was just like it's like you're stranded in the desert, and this is like a little drop of water, and you're just like, oh god, yes, anything right now. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see this updated and just like see a new kind of piece of concept artwork, and just have something to talk about versus with Metroid Prime 4, which had been, I mean, like, honestly, like it had been less than radio silent, like, for that game for a long time.
I think another big part of it, and obviously this would prove not to be true, but like, I think another big thing is like, oh my god, they updated the banner. Does this mean we're finally getting more information? The answer, of course, was no. But that was another big thing on a lot of people's minds.
So not long after that, actually, is another important date, which is March the 3rd of 2022. That is the official launch of OmegaMetroid.com. And that Super Metroid guide that I was referencing earlier that I had written during the pandemic, that was kind of the impetus for what was going to be, what was going to be what OmegaMetroid.com is going to be built around, which was kind of mirroring what Zelda Dungeon had done. Is like it had built its website around written guides, written walkthroughs. And I remember at the time I was kind of thinking to myself, like, does anybody actually like want guides for Metroid? Like, the fun is like getting lost and not knowing where to go and all that kind of stuff. So I was a little bit like, do people like really want this? But I remember thinking at the time that the Metroid fan site, like the big Metroid fan site that we had at the time, I was just like, I don't think that it's like the best place for Metroid fans, and like it wasn't doing it for me. So I was like, well, don't complain about it, make your own community. And so we did, and we launched our own website, and it was a skeleton website when it launched. In terms of walkthroughs, like there was Super Metroid, Nestroid, and Metroid Fusion, and I think that was it. And Metroid Dread, actually. We did do a really extensive Metroid Dread walkthrough, but that was kind of it. And but we launched anyways, and we've added more walkthroughs over time. We still got some work to go. We need the Metroid Other M and Federation Force walkthrough. I think people are willing to wait on those guys.
That Federation Force walkthrough is going to be so brutal. I'm not looking forward to that.
I am like a complete sicko, actually, and I am very excited about that walkthrough when the time comes for that. So, but yeah, that was an important date for us as well, because it really kind of evolved like Omega Metroid from a podcast to like I felt like kind of an all-encompassing community of Metroid fans that was focused on like games. It was focused on podcasting, YouTube. And I think like the decision was like, maybe Metroid fans don't necessarily need to be told where to go, what to do, but like I was like, maybe it's just a different way to play these games that you've like experienced for a long time. And frankly, there are a lot of people that if you're trying to get them into Metroid and they're playing Super Metroid or Nestroid, it's just like, what are we doing? Like, this is impossible right here. So that's kind of the idea behind our website and what we wanted to do.
And I think we were able to carve kind of our own unique niche for ourselves as well. I mean, you look at Shine Sparkers, they provide some excellent editorials, some interviews as well, translations, and then obviously for us, the podcast and the walkthroughs is kind of like our biggest bread and butter on the website as well.
Yeah.
And so I feel like being able as Metroid fans to deliver something that's still unique, that's not derivative, I think has also been something very important to us about the website as well.
Okay, let's fast forward here, and I think that we should include this next date on our timeline here. The year is 2023. The date is February the 9th. And there is a Nintendo Direct this day, and Metroid Prime Remastered is announced. And not only is it announced, it is shadow dropped that day for purchase at an insane price, by the way, like $20 less than the game would usually cost, like just an insane deal. And frankly, one of the first times I can ever remember a first party published Nintendo game launching for less than like full retail price. Someone could fact check me there, but like I don't remember any instance of this.
WarioWare Get It Together, the previous 2 years prior to that was $50.
That seems like the type of okay. Pretty rare occurrence.
Prime Remastered though, that's like a game that I think anyone was expecting. Oh, obviously that would be $60.
Yeah,
$40 like is still like an absolutely insane price for that game. My goodness, I like all Metroid, it feels kind of whatever at this point, because I scream at literally every Metroid announcement like a hyena. But yeah, I absolutely lost my mind when this was announced. I remember because I think this was following like the reveal of like Game Boy Advance games or something.
You're 100% right.
I could have sworn there was an NSO announcement beforehand. So I was expecting like, okay, there's our Nintendo announcement. We're about to go back to third parties. And then, they just casually go to the next slide. Oh yeah, remaster of Metroid Prime. I'm just like, wait, what? What's going on here? And then of course I was expecting like, an HD port, kind of like a Skyward Sword HD. And then, oh my God, they show the Chozo ruins. And like instantly I'm like, yo,
dude,
this is brand new.
What? That was just like, I couldn't believe it. There's actually like I am not one for like reaction clips. They're just not my cup of tea. But I was streaming this for Zelda Dungeon, and I was on Twitch. If you want to see my reaction to this, twitch.tv/ZeldaCast. I was just like, I was losing it as much as I tend to lose it. So it was just like beautiful.
Well, I was going to say, we also have both of our reactions on the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to check those out, you can also head to our Omega Metroid YouTube channel for both of those. But yeah, my goodness, Metroid Prime Remastered. Well, at least until Metroid Prime 4, I think the best looking game on Switch. But yeah, we'll have to see what that Switch 1 game looks like. Yeah. Either way, incredible looking game to this day. It still just blows my mind that is a thing that exists now.
And I think it's like worth talking about Metroid Prime Remastered because I feel like, at least for me, and I feel like for a lot of people, that probably felt like a test drive for what Metroid Prime 4 was going to look like in terms of like the controls, in terms of what the kind of visuals we could expect. And I was really just like, I feel like maybe they're close to announcing Metroid Prime 4 with this Metroid Prime Remastered. They did not seem to be separate, like, individual things. Like, there seemed to be some kind of tie-in there between, or at least to my eyes. And I think at that point, the only question, because again, we're in 2023, and I'm thinking, like, this has got to be the last year of the Switch. Like, do we get a new Switch in November of 2023? Because like Tears of the Kingdom comes out, like what else is after that? And they squeezed out another year of the Switch in 2024, and I think they gave it like a good release of windows in 2024. Super Mario Wonder, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I think they threw a Kirby game in there, of course, for padding the release window, but eventually you were just like, my God, like we definitely need to start looking towards the next Switch. So at this point, I was pretty confident that we were not going to see Metroid Prime 4 until the Switch 2 was officially announced. But that was not the case, because fast forward to, what's our next date here? June the 18th of 2024, when finally, at the end of the Nintendo Direct, the main event of the Nintendo Direct, Metroid Prime 4 is revealed, and it is revealed as Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which, by the way, is something that we coined here on the Omega Metroid podcast in one of our episodes, as one of our listeners told us last week. But that is when you see the first footage, the first trailer, to get the subtitle. Correct me if I'm wrong, like this is when Silex is shown walking in just like a total hero to that like unreal guitar riff. Like, this was so awesome. I will admit to being a little bit disappointed at the time that it wasn't saved for like a big Switch 2 kind of reveal, but that pretty quickly went away, and I was just like, oh boy, like here we go. And it looked spectacular.
Yeah, and then yeah, I don't think I talked about it so much on the podcast, but like when I first saw the trailer, I just straight up didn't like it at all. I was not a fan, and it's kind of, I can't really go back, because I think I eventually did talk about, like, as I was warming up to it, like, hey, I think this is why my reaction was overblown, but I did eventually start to warm up to the trailer and get very excited about everything. But yeah, I just remember when I first saw the trailer, there was something which is weird to think about, because like visually the game looks absolutely phenomenal, but something about the visuals when I first saw it just wasn't doing it for me. I thought, like, my biggest disappointment was that, and this will be a big theme to, like, as we learn more about the game, but I think my biggest disappointment was that, like, on one hand, it wasn't it looked different than what I was expecting, but at the same time, there wasn't anything new that was shown off. Every single thing that Samus does in that trailer is something that she's been doing since the very first Metroid Prime. Not even like some Metroid Prime 3 mechanics or anything like that. Your very standard Metroid Prime 1 stuff, but now with prettied up HD graphics. Other than the Silex reveal, which pumped me up.
You're going to be riding a bike in this game.
Little did I know, but we'll save that for later. But again, even then, even amongst all that, as I like really accepted the trailer for what it is, I did finally start to warm up to it and like get really excited for the possibilities.
So I would say that like for the next, because we don't see this game again for almost like a year after this point.
I'd say like what, 9 months, because we're looking
okay, like 12 to 9 months, let's just say, enough time that you could have a baby in that time period. I'll fast forward. So the next time that we see Metroid Prime 4 is March the 27th of 2025, and before we really hone in on that date, I would say like for the bulk of this year, I think that the real conversation that dominated Metroid Prime 4 was like, is this going to be a Switch 1 title only, or is it going to be a cross-gen title? So like it was very clearly going to be a Switch title. Nintendo was not going to, I guess, abandon their promise that they had made to Switch owners back in 2017 that this was coming to the Switch. I was advocating that it should just go right to the Switch too. I remember, and a lot of people were not happy with that, and I get it, but I don't know if that was feasible or not, if like the development was that far along that maybe it just wasn't like honestly feasible to do that. But I think that would have been my decision, but that's not what Nintendo did. They stuck to their promise, they kept their word, and it was a hot debate whether this was going to be a Switch 1 title only or a Switch 2 title. And I remember like really just kind of arguing with people, and I was very passionate that this should be a cross-gen title and like have a Switch 2 version and not just we didn't know that there was upgrade packs at the time, but in the Wii U era, a lot of those games were later ported to the Switch, and like those are successful, but I feel like it was missing, like if you do that, you're just missing something. Like it's you look at it as a Switch game instead of like the new Switch 2, which it maybe is semantics, but like I feel like there's a difference there in how it's perceived by customers. So I remember being very, very much just like, man, we got to see this on the Switch 2.
Yeah, and I think I was in the same camp as you. Like we were very not even I know for a fact, because I was also getting into very heated debates with people. Like if they do not put this on the Switch 2, that would be the L of the century. I think that is an exact quote that I said at one point.
Yeah.
But it was actually funny because as you rightfully mentioned, 2025 was the year of the Switch 2. It finally, like there were so many Switch 2 rumors, going throughout 2024, a ton of leaks that ended up coming to fruition. And then we finally, of course, got the reveal trailer in January earlier this year. But we already knew that there was another presentation coming up on April 2nd. And so
yes, we did.
When we didn't get any Metroid news, I think we were all like cusping our hands together like, oh boy, this is it. And then out of nowhere, the RKO out of nowhere, Nintendo announces a Switch 1 Direct a week beforehand out of the blue.
Yeah. And I remember thinking like, So this is the Direct that airs on March the 27th of 2025. I remember thinking this was one of the worst Nintendo Directs I'd ever seen. I just like, I don't know if it's because I was just like, I'm ready for the Switch 2, but like to me, like the games that were shown off in this Direct, like they showed off Tomodachi Island or whatever it's called. I can't even, I think it opened with like Monster Hunter or Dragon Quest or something like that. Like basically every Nintendo Direct ever, you can see Monster Hunter and Dragon Quest, and this one was no different. I can't even remember what closed the show, but I know that it was
Tomodachi Life.
Was it that? Okay. There was maybe it was like a WarioWare game or something too. Like whatever it was, I was just like, this is rough. And I remember being unimpressed with Metroid Prime 4 slotting in that Direct, because both that game and Pokemon ZA were I think like we all thought that they were going to be cross-gen games, and they kind of just sandwiched both of them in like the middle of the direct, where at least if you had them kind of bookending it, you either open with Metroid or Pokemon and close with the other one. I feel like that at least kind of gives it a little bit of a boost. And obviously this is subjective, but I remember coming away from that Nintendo Direct. Well, I was excited to see Metroid Prime 4 because we did learn about the psychic abilities here, but I can't say that this trailer was like a 10 out of 10 home run either. And it wasn't helped by where it was placed in the Direct. And we didn't get confirmation, not that we were expecting it for this Direct, but we didn't get confirmation that it was cross-gen.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I was as harsh on the Direct as you, but for one, those games are definitely not Andy coded for the most part, so
No.
I definitely don't blame you. Like I personally, I'm all about Tomodachi Life, so I'm very excited for that. I definitely don't think that's your cup of tea at all, and I think the WarioWare game you're referring to is actually Rhythm Heaven.
Yes,
game
that's
they
it. You're
announced.
right. Yes.
Which I have yet to play the Rhythm Heaven games, but I've heard lots of good things about them, so I might have to hop on that.
You know what? I've heard good
eventually.
things too, and I don't mean to disparage Tomodachi Life or Rhythm Heaven. I think this Direct I feel like was just kind of in a tough spot because it's like it was
Yeah.
like it's like when you watch like a wrestling show and you see the pre-show with like the matches that are good enough to put on free TV, but not good enough to be on the pay-per-view that you want to sell to your customers. That's what this kind of felt like to me, where it was just like, these are games to hold you over, but the stuff that you really want, that's coming next week on the 2nd.
And I think that's why I wasn't as harsh on it as well, because it's like, hey, you know what? We know that the real big deal is, just around the corner. We weren't even going and expecting this, so, even if this doesn't, meet my expectations, I didn't have expectations to begin with. So anything above that is fine enough for me. Obviously, if you're going to compare this to all the other Directs, it's definitely going to be near the bottom of the list for sure. But yeah, I definitely didn't mind it.
April 2nd, 1 week later, 2025. The big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct happens, and we finally get confirmation that Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is a cross-gen title. There are upgraded Nintendo Switch 2 edition that you can have, and the specs for this were just like off the charts. Quality mode, 4K, 60 FPS, HDR, performance mode, 1080p, 120 FPS, HDR. Like this is a big beefy game, and it looked absolutely brilliant. Watching this, and it was just like really nice to know that like Nintendo's made some questionable choices with the Metroid franchise before. It was nice to know that like at least they're not just gonna send this to die on the Switch. Because I think, like, say what you will about Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven, I'm sure they're going to be fun games, but, like, those games are going to die on the Switch.
Well, I mean, I feel like Tomodachi Life is going to be pretty it was insanely successful on the 3DS, but I know what you mean for sure. It's actually funny. Earlier, you were saying you're not much of a video reactor, dude. You lost your mind when you like were throwing your hands in the air. You were
Did I do
screaming
that?
like you were. Oh yeah, dude, you were. It was awesome. Both of
Okay.
us were excited. I don't know about Al, but you and I were very excited. I've never seen you react like that before, but I think it was mostly just all that pent up and built up pressure just from like hoping and arguing with people, just finally like relieved of all that stress more than anything.
Totally. It was nice
Yeah.
to see, like, oh, thank God they're not doing this. Like,
Yeah.
it brings back those horrible memories of E3 2017. Just watching them like announce Metroid Samus Returns in the after show for the console that's like kind of basically on its last legs, and it's like, it's like you are not setting this game up for success. So like when it wasn't a success, like, duh, no wonder. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. And while we didn't get much new footage, the footage we did see looked freaking gorgeous. Like I remember this was the moment where like I was finally like really wowed by the visuals of this game. Like it already looked really good, but like, after having just gotten Prime remastered, really pushes the Switch to its limits. It's hard to be like, it's hard to go much above beyond that. But like again, seeing this game with like those enhanced textures and running so smoothly at 4K, that was just like, whoa, okay, this is a significant leap up, despite being a cross-gen title.
And speaking of incredible graphics, April 3rd, the next day, 2025, we get the Treehouse demonstration of basically like the opening kind of intro here, and holy cow, does this ever just look like just absolutely incredible. We're on the planet Tanamar, and Samus's ship just looks, I mean, spectacular coming into orbit here. So we see our first like actual gameplay of Metroid Prime 4. First instance of using the mouse controls as well, which was a selling feature for this game. And the first boss fight that we see as well. Granted, you do have to kind of put up with some annoying commentary from the Treehouse staffers here, but and you also have to put up with like just an absolutely wretched boss fight. Like this is like the worst boss fight of all time. And I get it. He did not want to target lock because he wanted to use the mouse controls, but like, my God, man, target lock, okay? But so it was like a really cool intro here, and it was basically like about 15 minutes of really raw footage. You see the Metroid kind of possessing the boss of the game, whose name is escaping me, but I'm sure you know. Yes. So it looked really cool and like really just like really slick, and I remember feeling pretty happy with what we saw here. And of course, it ended with the amazing confrontation between Samus and Sylix. And Sylix hitting the artifact with its shock coil, setting up our journey onto the planet Viros.
Yeah. So it was kind of like our first new story details, because we kind of finally figured, and I think we were theorizing beforehand, because we noticed, pictures of the artifact beforehand and noticed it was in the logo, and how it looked kind of like a black hole event horizon, and we were theorizing like, I think there's some sort of accident that happens with there that's going to transport Samus to this new planet, and sure enough, that was pretty much confirmed.
Yeah.
Where that demo ends. We also, and I cannot stress this enough, what we finally got to see the confirmation of the Federation Force Golem mechs returning.
Oh, that's right.
From zero to hero, the glow up of the century. These things look so awesome.
God, you've never seen a glow up as good as that, except for maybe like McLovin coming straight to Metroid Prime Federation Force and being cool man Miles.
Of course,
yes, yeah.
That's not a fair comparison though.
These looked so awesome, and like part of me is like, I'm still a romantic, and like maybe there's something redeeming about Federation Force. Like we can look back and say like, oh yeah, Federation Force did this really cool to add to the Metroid legacy. I think the golems like look really awesome, and I think that we're gonna see. I actually think we're gonna see that cutscene of Sylix stealing that Metroid egg in like HD. From Federation Force, so maybe that could be something that we look back fondly for that game for introducing for us. So, but yeah, that Golem, man, baby,
yeah, incredible, and honestly, just the opening cutscene in general, like the entire demo was awesome, but like, God, that opening cutscene, like I know you, I, and Dak were talking about it for the longest time, but we were all just like, yo, why aren't they putting this in the trailers? This looks insane. They've finally done that with some of the more recent trailers, but it's like, holy crap, like the animation here and the choreography, like the visual, everything here is just so gorgeous.
Okay, we are going to fast forward here a little bit, and we are going to the 12th of September of 2025, and this is when that trailer for Metroid Prime 4 drops. That I'm not going to go so far as to say it like broke the internet, but it caused some waves for sure. This is, I think like one of the great Metroid trailers of all time. Actually,
yeah.
Like you see Samus, and the Viola suit had been teased before this, but now you see Viola, and you are riding this motorcycle bike. And I think this caught everyone off guard. Everyone had some strong reactions to this. But man, I loved this trailer. I thought it was so good. And at this point too, I remember like the conversation around this game is dominated by like the marketing, the lack of marketing. Are they marketing it well enough? Are they not marketing? And I was like, I just want to ride this bike, man. This looks awesome.
Yeah.
And so there was actually a slew of announcements that came out that day. One other thing that I think is noteworthy as well, actually two other things that is noteworthy, is one, there was new Metroid Amiibo announced, and not one, not two, but three new Metroid Amiibo. So you've got Samus from just her various suit with the psychic jewel, I guess, on her forehead. A fine looking amiibo, really nice looking. But I was like, yeah, I have Samus in her various suit, but man, you got the Viola and Samus amiibo. This might be the best amiibo that they've ever done. No, like Samus and Viola, like that one amiibo together.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry.
I think like for me, I don't collect all the amiibo, but like I think for me, like the Zelda Loftwing amiibo is kind of like the one that I thought was the best. This one might be better than that. This is so like just my god, it looks great.
Yeah, I definitely the Viola and Silex amiibos are like easily like probably my favorite amiibos ever made. Like I absolutely love them. The Dark Samus and Ridley Smash amiibos are also really high contenders. I love the look of those as well. And then of course one of the things that immediately stuck out to me with the Silex amiibo was if you look closely, his foot is crushing one of the Federation Marines helmets, and I'm just like, that is so such an insanely cool detail. And he's doing the pose from like his first introduction in Hunters in the cutscene too, and I'm like, that's such a cool Easter egg as well. So yeah, very interesting because we usually get all the amiibo at the same time, but this is kind of the first staggered amiibo release pre-launch of a game.
You know what? Yes and no. I've seen amiibo come out in staggered releases before, but I have never in my life seen amiibo come out for a game before the game launched. So the other notable piece of news that we got here, of course, was the release date of December the 4th of 2025. People were very, very much just being like, what's going on? Where's the release date? Is it delayed till 2026? And so we finally got an official date here. They did stick to 2025, but there's something that tells me that this game was set to launch on the 6th of November, and something happened where instead of Metroid Prime 4, Age of Imprisonment, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment launched on that day instead. And I got it. I remember thinking that Age of Imprisonment felt like it was launching early. I thought that it would be launching in like January or February because the initial release said winter. But it launched here, and as someone that's almost like 100% in Age of Imprisonment, it does feel like there's like maybe some stuff that's missing. So I wonder if it was bumped up. I don't know why, but
well, they did just announce that free update for the game today, right?
Yeah, they did. They did. So I don't know, but like it felt very curious to me, and anyways, we'll never know, but something tells me that Metroid Prime 4 was supposed to launch in November, but something happened and it's launching in December instead.
I definitely think there's quite a bit of evidence to suggest that the game was meant to come out earlier, potentially even earlier than November 6th, but I think that's a discussion for a different episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that being said, though, yeah, you and I, we were huge fans of this trailer. Obviously, a lot of people were not fans, but this was for me. This was the moment where, like, obviously, I was excited because it's Metroid Prime 4. Obvious, like, I'm not going to be excited about it, and especially after having warmed up to that initial reveal and seeing it on Switch 2 now, like, I was like, okay, I'm feeling a lot more confident. But I knew that, like, there was so. I knew Nintendo was being weird about this game. Like, there's something they're hiding from us. There's this big desert on the cover. There's something important about that desert that they want to tell us about in that cover, but they're not telling us yet. Mm-hmm. And by God, we found out what that was in trailer 3, and I was insanely pumped. I was like,
yeah.
This was like this is the moment that I was waiting for. Now I am certifiably hyped for this game beyond it just being a new Metroid game.
Yeah, I like that. That was the hook. That's what makes this game a little bit different. So it kind of looks like a little bit of a blend of open world, but not that open. So I am like really stoked to explore that desert area. And that kind of brings us to the end here. I do think that there is one more important date that we should highlight, and that is November the 15th of 2025. That is, of course, a day that may go down in infamy for Metroid, depending on how Metroid Prime 4 goes. But that's the day where multiple previews came out for Metroid Prime 4, and I think it's fair to say the reaction was mixed. The gameplay was heralded as being great Metroid Prime gameplay, kind of exactly what you'd expect. But the topic of conversation that dominated the news waves, dominated our podcast, was, of course, Miles McKenzie. So the companion system, we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I've spoken to a lot of Metroid fans. Some are very open to it. Some are not looking forward to it at all. Some are going to grit their teeth through it. And I've talked to some people that are like boycotting the game because of it. So I'm not here to tell you what to do, but it is something that intrigues me to kind of see like how this all ends up shaking out. And if this was, I suspect like we're gonna look back at this and be like, man, people lost their mind over something not really that wasn't really a big deal. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will be. We'll have to see.
Yeah, it's hard to say. We also didn't talk about the Survive trailer that came out like a couple weeks before that as well. Obviously, not much to talk about there, but I think that's an important moment just because it felt like that was the moment where like all the negativity that stemmed from trailer 3 kind of did a 180 almost. Which I'll be honest, I don't fully understand why, because that trailer didn't really reveal too much new. I think it was just more so just the pacing and the way that trailer was put together maybe that like got more people on board. But yeah, it was a really good trailer, and I was personally just happy to finally see like kind of the Metroid community not so splintered off from trailer 3 anymore personally.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't think it was like too noteworthy, but you're right. There had been a lot of mixed reaction about the trailers that we had so far, and again, very subjective. But I think that trailer generally seemed to go down pretty well. And you know what? How about this? One last date that I will throw out for you: January the 3rd, 2026, the 300th episode of the Omega Metroid podcast.
Wow. What a journey.
What a journey. The journey is almost at its end, if you can believe it. For the game, anyways, not the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're not going away anytime soon. You have no idea how many episodes we have piggy banked away. You know that somehow we find a way to keep it going, and we don't plan on stopping anytime soon.
There you go.
One more date, actually, October 28th, the Metroid Prime 1 through 3 visual retrospective. Not much to say here. We already did a whole episode about it, so check that out if you want our full thoughts there. There is one mention of Metroid Prime 4. It is Kensuke Tanabe confirming that it is a game that is coming out.
Yeah, I don't even like that. I'm scratching that off my timeline. That, you know what, I feel like that's like a great book, but it didn't scratch the itch that I had. I think what I want is just like a full-blown behind-the-scenes look at like the development of these games. What I really want is a full-blown behind-the-scenes development book of Metroid Prime 4, and to see if the rumors of who was making the game before are true, what exactly the problems were, what those conversations looked like. I hope we get that book someday. I hope we do, because I would be all over that.
So not only is that, I think you would agree that it's pretty unlikely that we'd ever get something like that, just because that Nintendo rarely does like behind the scenes, stuff. Especially
it would
with,
have to be like
projects.
Something like a Reggie Fils-Aimé book, like where he kind of detailed,
right.
And even that, I don't think so.
But on top of that, I feel like, and I can actually understand Nintendo's philosophy on this. It would almost feel like they would be throwing the original developers under the bus by publicizing a failed project and profiting off that, which I can honestly understand from their point of view, as much as I really want to see that.
Yeah, I don't think this will ever come to like fruition in any official capacity. Like, I think it would have to be a book by somebody that was working there, kind of Maybe like we need a sequel to Console Wars, like that book, but just about the development of Metroid Prime 4. I don't know, but I would love to know the whole story. I don't know if we'll ever get it, but that'd be really interesting if we did. So there it is, the timeline of Metroid Prime 4 from start to end, and a little bit of Omega Metroid history thrown in there as well to fill out some of the blank spaces. It's been quite the journey. It's surreal to think that this is like there's next week's show, and then our next show after that is our first impressions of Metroid Prime 4.
We've been waiting, I mean, like I said, 18 years since Metroid Prime 3, but 8 years since the first announcement of this game. And by the time you are all watching this, it will be 8 days away. Absolutely
Crazy.
nutty.
Yeah, crazy. So we do want to remind everybody, get your questions in for the show for next week. Questions, stories, concerns, thoughts, anything like that you want us to go over. I think we'll have a show very similar to this week's show where we're just kind of like just taking a little bit of a nostalgic trip back, and we'll answer questions, of course, too. But I'm really looking forward to hearing like where everybody was at in 2017 versus like where you're at now. My life has changed like a ton since this game was announced to present day. Like, changed careers, got married, got a dog, bought a house. Like, a lot has changed since that day.
I had just gotten accepted into a university in 2017, so I hadn't even attended yet, just got accepted, and now I've had my degree for almost 3 years now, which is very wild to think about.
Crazy march of time.
In fact, you even saw me on the podcast, like, you know, in my old dorm room while I was working on said degree, so yeah, crazy stuff.
Okay, everybody, there it is. Thank you so much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed this retrospective. I'm going to try and put this together in written form as well, just a quick, tidy little timeline, just to reflect back, and we hope that you enjoy that and check that out over on OmegaMetroid.com, where you can go for all of your Metroid news, your Metroid guides, your Metroid thought pieces, your Metroid information. It is all there on OmegaMetroid.com. We will put together the walkthrough as quickly as we can for Metroid Prime 4. We're going to enjoy the game, though, as well, so it'll be a work in progress over the next couple of months. But definitely make sure that you are checking out OmegaMetroid.com for all of the latest for Metroid Prime 4. Check out Omega Metroid's YouTube page as well if you ever do want to watch these videos or these podcasts, rather, in video form. You can see our faces and our reactions in real time. Plus, if you're playing some of the games, we've got video walkthroughs there as well for you. So make sure that you go and check that out. And check us out wherever you get your podcast. So like, subscribe, recommend, rate, review, all of that good stuff. If you do have a Metroid fan in your life, maybe it's a new Metroid fan excited for Metroid Prime 4, tell them about the Omega Metroid podcast, where they can get their weekly Metroid fix. And of course, give us a follow over on Blue Sky at Omega Metroid, at Spiteri316, at Doominal Cross. And that, my friends, is going to do it for us. So until next week, we'd love to hear your questions. We'll talk to you then. Ciao.